like to think of the wilderness as a vast, untamed frontier. But the truth is, it's difficult to get genuinely lost anymore. Between overlapping GPS layers, high-resolution satellite imagery, and meticulously updated physical topographical data, our modern mapping systems track nearly every square inch of terrain. In October 2022, a highly logical backpacker set out for a 3-day solo trek. He packed light, knew his route, and entered the well-documented jurisdiction of the George Washington National Forest. This topographical map shows a confirmed, verified path, the exact route he had hiked twice before. But on midday of day 2, the physical terrain broke from the data. He encountered a heavily worn fork in the trail, a path branching off to the left that appeared on 0 downloaded offline maps and matched no physical charts in his pack. Every logical instinct dictated he stay right, yet despite the hard data in his hands, he felt a magnetic pull toward the left. He followed the unmapped route. We build robust navigation networks to guarantee our safety, but those networks rely entirely on us obeying them. When the environment successfully overrides human instinct, all that satellite data becomes useless. 40 minutes down that uncharted path, the woods opened into a clearing holding a century-old, structurally solid wooden cabin. Looking at this dense autumn canopy, you can see how an isolated structure could easily be swallowed by the landscape, hidden entirely from aerial surveys. The building's physical state immediately contradicted its isolation. Both front windows were blacked out from the inside with heavy cloth. When he knocked, there was no answer, but the unlatched, heavy wooden door swung smoothly inward under the lightest touch. The interior space was small. In the corner sat an iron stove, stone-cold to the touch, yet filled with completely fresh ash. Lining the entire left wall were floor-to-ceiling shelves, packed with dozens of sealed, unlabeled jars holding unidentified dark matter. A fully intact, actively maintained, century-old structure does not exist off the grid by accident. Its presence is a glaring physical blind spot in our modern surveillance of public lands. Resting squarely on a small wooden table in the center of the room was a single item, an ancient leather journal, its cover cracked and entirely unstamped. The first page held a highly specific inscription. "For whoever finds this, you were brought here. You did not choose this path." He initially thought it was a prank. Then he flipped halfway through the book. Written in fresh ink was a passage documenting his present state. It described a solo hiker arriving at the cabin in October, wearing a blue rain jacket and carrying a red backpack. A freshly penned ledger detailing a hiker's gear and arrival date suggests active, precise premeditation. The journal serves as a real-time record, placing an unknown observer in the room just moments before the hiker arrived. Deep, rhythmic breathing echoed from the tree line. The sound carried the weight of massive lung capacity, an entity exerting a strained, conscious effort to keep its presence quiet. He pulled back the dark window cloth just enough to observe an empty clearing, but the breathing moved closer. Then, directly below the window, a dead leaf crunched underfoot. The entity was inches away. He stood there in the dark, knife drawn, waiting. After 10 full minutes of absolute silence, the sound ended. The clearing fell into a total, heavy silence, with no receding footsteps or rustling brush. A physical presence large enough to produce that volume of breath leaves a trail of sound when it moves. The true terror of this encounter is the total lack of transition, the sudden absence of a predator that never recorded an exit. He stayed awake until dawn. As he packed up to flee, he finally noticed the outside of the cabin door. The frame was bordered with old, deep geometric carvings, and down at knee height, gouged so freshly into the wood that the splinters were still pale, was a single word: leave. He looked toward the tree line. Standing completely motionless between 2 thick oaks was a figure, impossibly tall, unnaturally thin, wearing dark clothing. It was facing the cabin, watching him. He turned and marched for 3.5 hours non-stop back to his car. Safe at home, he tried to logically audit his experience. He reviewed vintage topographical maps like this one, alongside historical land surveys and modern satellite records, looking for any trace of the clearing. The area was a complete blank. He called the ranger station. The official confirmed there were 0 registered structures in that sector, but admitted the hiker wasn't the first person to call about that specific trail. He was explicitly warned never to return to that section of the forest. We rely on the logic of coordinates and satellite surveillance to tell us what surrounds us. Yet even the institutions managing those systems acknowledge the truth. There are still unmapped spaces out there, and sometimes they know we are coming.